So I thought I was all done making COVID-19 videos. I thought about making one maybe the beginning of next year, something like that, to say, well, it's finally over for sure. Because for the most part, it's over. Half the country's been inoculated, immunized, whatever you want to call it. And for the most part, everything or almost everything is reopened. We took such a bad financial hit that any business that voluntarily goes back to what we were doing is going to put themselves out of business. And any politician who insists that we go back to that year of hell that we all put up with is going to commit political suicide for sure. Right now, the ones that locked us down, shut us down, closed us down, made us all hide in our houses, lied to us over and over again, tried to control us, broke the law, did all these things, can now run on the platform of, re-elect me, I'm the one who reopened the state. I guarantee you, our bitch governor's going to do that. And some of them are going to get away with it. And in some other places, people won't forget. People won't forget that you put them out of business. People won't forget that they were making less on unemployment, even with that federal money, than when they were working. People aren't going to forget that they missed the graduation, the wedding, their loved one dying in the hospital. They're not going to forget that they weren't able to be there when their firstborn child was being delivered in the hospital. They're not going to forget their kids having this half-ass education at home online. They're not going to forget all of the bullshit, the things not being in stock at the stores, all the misinformation. There are people like me who are not going to forget, but there will be plenty of people that, just like everything, fall for it or have short memories, and they're going to go, oh yeah, that governor reopened our state. Yeah, the same governor that closed your state reopened it. Think about it. Think about it. Critical thinking, right? So, in that sense, because I just don't see any business or any politician being that stupid to put us through that again so soon, I think COVID is over. There's really no need for me to do any more COVID videos. Honestly, there aren't. However, with this recent admission from the White House that they are working with Facebook to block people who are putting out what they call misinformation about COVID-19, that's a form of censorship. Now, I'm not on Facebook. Facebook is a trailer park of the internet. The only social media I really do is this YouTube crap, which is not really that much further behind Facebook, right? YouTube blocks people, demonetizes people, takes down their channel, does all kinds of things, strikes against you, you name it, right? They do all kinds of things if somebody reports you or they don't agree with what you have to say. It's interesting how if you're just doing a video, that's your opinion. It's not a fact, it's your opinion. And you make it clear that this is an editorial type video, you may still run the risk of getting in trouble with YouTube. And the thing is, YouTube is free. It is. So I'm not paying for it, so I really don't have a leg to stand on if they block me or shut me down or do whatever, because they don't like what I have to say. If I was paying for it, then I could at least, cancel my subscription or have some sort of, hey, I'm not paying for this if I can't do what I want to do, that sort of thing. And I would be willing to pay for YouTube, honestly. I would. As long as the fee was reasonable, as long as they couldn't, if I put music in the background, they're not going to tell me it's a copyright strike, that sort of thing, right? But that's fantasy land. That's not the way YouTube works. But my concern is that YouTube, like Facebook, might be influenced or even directly working with the White House or other politicians out there to suppress people from stating their opinion, from talking about their experience with regard to the whole COVID thing. Now, here's the thing. There were plenty of doctors out there that say that we overreacted, that the masks don't work, that the vaccine doesn't work, that the vaccine hasn't been tested long enough, that if you build up your own immunity, then you don't need the vaccine. There are plenty of doctors that say that, right? And then there's other doctors who go, no, you've got to get vaccinated, and oh, no, it's bad. Oh, there's going to be another strain. Oh, you've got to wear 10 masks. You got to, more or less, different doctors have different opinions. And if you don't like your doctor's opinion right now, you have the right to a second opinion. So if your family doctor tells you a bunch of stuff and you don't agree with it, you can go to another doctor for treatment. So I don't know that necessarily listening to these doctors is really, I think it's a choice. And I really don't think the government should be necessarily getting involved in that. However, the doctor that is a bureaucrat, a politician, he works for the government, the head of the CDC, has said all kinds of things that contradict themselves for the past year and a half about COVID-19. And sometimes I think he was telling the truth, and other times I think he was lying. But because he works for the government, he works for me. His check, his paycheck, his benefits all come from my tax dollars and your tax dollars. Because he's the government. He's not a private company. He's not a private practitioner. He's not an individual. Whatever you say about him or what he says, in particular what he says, or what he's been doing, is, as far as I'm concerned, your First Amendment right to freedom of speech against your government. It's not slander, because you're not affecting his business or anything else like that. And it's not a threat or anything else like that. It's literally you speaking out against the words and actions of a politician, of the government. When you're talking about Fauci, or when you're talking about Trump's failed policies with COVID and Biden's failed policies with COVID, then you're speaking out against the government. And that's what the First Amendment is about. People think freedom of speech means freedom of speech anywhere, everywhere. And I believe, if I understand it correctly, the First Amendment is about freedom of speech against your government. So if the government, whether it be the White House, Congress, the Supreme Court, any form of government is working with social media or mainstream media or any communications or information outlet to suppress people speaking out against the government's policies, the government's guidelines, these government officials who change their story, who have been caught lying to us, these government officials who have broken the law or abused the authority they have in the name of COVID-19, then isn't that a suppression of my First Amendment rights? So if the government is taking steps to go after my First Amendment rights, what else are they going to go after? And if these private companies who have the right to tell you you can or can't post this on their website that you use for free can do this on their own, why do they need the government to be advising them or ordering them or influencing them on what they do? They already do enough suppression of things that they don't agree with. From a standpoint of just being a capitalist country, a free country, but a capitalist country. So I'm a bit concerned. I'm a bit concerned that if the White House is admitting this, that there's potential for further, fraud. Because we all know the election was a fraud, although there are some of you out there that were saying that, and now you've backpedaled it, and now you're blaming it on people that had nothing to do with it. And I find it interesting how you're falling in line, like the sheep you are. You're falling in line because, you're afraid you're going to get demonetized or blocked or banned or something? Stand for something. You stood for something last year, but this year you don't. So I guess there's plenty of people that'll be okay with the government restricting our First Amendment right to speak out against the government. That they're okay with the government telling social media, ban these people, block these people, censor these people, strike these people, demonetize these people. Because they're speaking out against the government. Because if you're speaking out against what has been happening as a result of this bogus pandemic, endorsed by our government, then you truly are exercising your First Amendment right and speaking out against the government. That's my opinion, not a fact. And if I get banned because I made this video, it proves my point. But if this video doesn't get banned, then so be it. Hopefully, this is the last COVID video. The whole point of me leaving those videos up were as a time capsule. If YouTube actually exists in 20 years, if my channel's still there in 20 years, and somebody who's researching this in the future wants to look at my recollection, me sharing my experiences, what I witnessed, what I actually experienced, saw, went through, and my opinions, then there's a record there. But if that record gets censored, it shows that the government was lying to us, and the government has no respect for our First Amendment, and neither does YouTube or any other form of social media that would support that sort of action. Just my opinion. Thanks for listening.